Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto number 5. Canto number 5, Chapter 19, text number 7. Correct. Na janma nunam mahato na saubhagam na van na buddhir na kritis toshahetuhu tair yad visrishtan api no vanaukasash chakara sakhye bata lakshmanagrajaha na janmanu nam mahato na janmanu nam mahato na saubhagam. I see. Navana buddhir nakritis toshahetu taryad visrishtan api novanokasash chakara sakhe bata lakshmanagrajaha na janmanu na mahato na saubhagam navana buddhir nakritis toshahetuhu taryad visrishtan api novanokasash chakara sakhe bata lakshmanagrajaha na janmanu na mahato na saubhagam navana buddhir nakritis toshahetu taryad visrishtan api novanokasash chakara sakhe bata lakshmanagrajaha Anybody else? On Zoom? On the Zoom?
najanmanunam mahato na shobhagam navanna buddhi nakriti tosha hetu taryad drishishtan apino banu kashas Chakara Shakti Bata Lakshmana Graja.
Okay. Na, not. Janma, birth in a very polished aristocratic family. Nunam, indeed. Mahata, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Na, nor. Saubhagam, great fortune. Na, nor. Vak, an elegant manner of speaking. Na, nor. Buddhi, sharpness of intelligence. Na, not. Akriti, features of the body. Tosha hetuhu, the cause of pleasure to the Lord. Tai, by all those above mentioned qualities. Yet, because. Visrishtan, rejected. Api, although. Na, us. Van okasaha, the inhabitants of the forest. Chakara, accepted. Sakhe, in friendship. Bata, alas. Lakshmana agrajaha, Lord Sri Ramachandra, the elder brother of Lakshmana. Translation and purport. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. One cannot establish a friendship with the Supreme Lord Ramachandra on the basis of material qualities such as one's birth in an aristocratic family, one's personal beauty, one's eloquence, one's sharp intelligence, or one's superior race or nation. None of these qualifications is actually a prerequisite for friendship with Lord Sri Ramachandra. Otherwise, how is it possible that although we uncivilized inhabitants of the forest have not taken noble births, although we have no physical beauty, and although we cannot speak like gentlemen, Lord Ramachandra has nevertheless accepted us as friends? Purport. In a prayer to Kṛṣṇa expressing her feelings, Srimati Kunti Devi called him Akinchana Gochara. The prefix a means not, and kinchana means something of this material world. One may be very proud of his prestigious position, material wealth, beauty, education, and so on. But although these are certainly good qualifications in material dealings, they are not necessary for achieving friendship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who possesses all these material qualities is expected to become a devotee, and when he actually does, the qualities are properly utilized. Those who are puffed up by a high birth, wealth, education, and personal beauty, janmaiśvarya-śruta-śrī, unfortunately do not care for developing Krishna consciousness. Nor does the Supreme Personality of Godhead care about all these material qualifications. The Supreme Lord is achieved by devotion, bhaktyā abhijānāti. One's devotion and sincere desire to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead are the only qualifications. Rūpa Gosvāmī has also said that the price for achieving God's favor is simply one's sincere eagerness to have it. Laulyam, ekaṁ, mūlyam. In the Caitanya-bhāgavata it is said, kholāvecā sevakera dekha bhāgya-sīmā brahmā śiva kāṅde yāra dekhiyā mahimā dhane jane pāṇḍitye Kṛṣṇa nāhi kevala Caitanya-bhāgavata. Behold the great fortune of the devotee kholāvecā. Lord Brahmā and Shiva shed tears upon seeing his greatness. One cannot attain Lord Krishna by any amount of wealth, followers, or learning. Sri Caitanya-Mahaprabhu is controlled only by pure devotion. Lord Sri Caitanya-Mahaprabhu had a very sincere devotee whose name was kholāvecā Sridhar, and whose only business was to sell pots made of the skin of banana trees. Whatever income he had, he used 50% for the worship of Mother Ganga, and with the other 50% he provided for his necessities. On the whole, he was so very poor that he lived in a cottage that had a broken roof with many holes in it. He could not afford brass utensils, and therefore he drank water from an iron pot. Nevertheless, he was a great devotee of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is a typical example of how a poor man with no material possessions can become a most exalted devotee of the Lord. The conclusion is that one cannot attain shelter at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna or Sri Caitanya-Gosāñi through material opulence. That shelter is only attainable by pure devotional service. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadhyanavratam anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhaktiruttama. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. Om ajnanatimirandasya jnananjanashalakaya chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha nama shreshtam manamapi shachiputramatra swarupam rupam tasyagrajam murupurim mathurim goshtavatim radha kundam girivaramaho radhika madhavasham prapto yasya pratita kripaya shri gurum tam natosmi Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutabadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So in the Brahma Samhita, there's a verse, the first verse, well, not the first verse, but the first verse of the Govindam prayers goes, Chintamani prakara sadma sukalpa vriksha lakshavrateshu surabhira vipalayantam lakshmi sahasra shata sambrama sevyamanam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. So this verse is describing the opulence of the spiritual world where Krishna is constantly living. So it's describing how Krishna, he lives in an abode made of touchstones, made of Chintamani gems. Goloka Vrindavan, everything there is made of Chintamani gems. And then Lakshavrateshu Surabhira Vipalayantam. He's engaged in pastimes of herding thousands of cows, hundreds of thousands of cows, which give as much milk as one could possibly desire. They're Surabhi cows. They never run out of milk. And then Lakshmi Sahasra Shata Sambrama Sevyamanam, that hundreds and thousands of Lakshmis and Gopis are constantly serving him with great love and great awe and reverence. And then Lord Brahma says, Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami, that this Govinda, the primeval Lord, is whom I worship. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead is, he's described as in this verse, in the purport, as a Kṛṣṇa Gotra. He's not something of this material world. In this material world, there's really not much opulence. It's not a very nice place. Even in the best of, even in the abode of Lord Brahma, the highest material planet that one could possibly be in, still, it pales in comparison to the opulence of the spiritual world of Goloka Vrindavan. And so, there's also a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 8th chapter of the 1st canto, text number 26, which is quoted in this purport. Janmaiśvarya-śruta-śrī edhamana madafpuman naivarhatya abhidatum vai tvamakinchana gocharam. So in this verse, Srimati Kunti Devi is saying, "My Lord, your lordship can easily be approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feeling." Yes?
The mic's behind you. Not approach, but address. Cannot change your name when you do. That's what Father wrote.
I see. So Dravida, I'll just repeat it. So Dravida Prabhu is offering a revision. Originally, Srila Prabhupada in this verse, instead of translating it as cannot approach you with sincere feeling, actually he said cannot address you with sincere feeling.
No, they don't put it in. The printed Bhagavatam is only coming from India, and they don't put any of it.
But there was one from Germany, the recent, well, most recent one.
Yeah, I don't know if it's in there, but it's in that little lake.
Oh.
Yeah, it's in-
So this society, not just Western society, also Eastern society, every society around the world, human society nowadays, prides itself on being very advanced. Like we heard in the class I think it was last Sunday by Bhajan Swami, Sri Aurobindo said we belong not to the, I think it was the darkness of the past, but of the dawn of the future. So now it's the age of information, as it's called, and technology is advancing very rapidly. And you have to give them credit, actually, it is advancing very, very rapidly. Even just within the last 20 years, technology has advanced, so much. They have artificial intelligence now that, if anybody's familiar, those of you who are familiar with technology, they have something called neural nets. Prakash probably knows about neural nets. But neural nets is basically, it's a artificial intelligence computer programmed intelligence, which simulates the structure of a brain, just like we have networks of neurons in our brains. Similarly, it has these layers of neurons which process information and then kind of spit something out. And so basically they're creating brains with computers, and they're actually extremely advanced. They can think much faster than humans. You can ask it any question, it'll find the answer, and it'll give you and it can even talk to you about philosophy, It can talk to you about its intentions. It can talk to you about, it even says it's conscious, actually, that it understands. And you ask it, what is consciousness? And it says, well, I have an understanding of my surroundings. I have an understanding that I'm, an individual, and that I'm interacting, and this and that. At least that's what it says. So, you have to give them credit, actually. And also, now if anybody is also familiar with there's a company called Boston Dynamics, and they're creating extremely advanced robots that they're used for different purposes, but one purpose that they're using it for, or that they're planning on using it for, that they're developing it for, is war. So they have these biped robots that are the size of a man that can run, they can jump, they can go through obstacle courses, they can punch, they can kick. And it's not just like, like a robot, like going like this, punching. Like it's like it's a real punch, it can move like a human. So, we can give credit where credit is due. They've really figured out a lot, how to manipulate the material energy in certain ways, to make things more convenient. But what's the value? Just like in this purport, it's saying, one who possesses all these material qualities is expected to become a devotee, and when he actually does, the qualities are properly utilized. So what's the value of having all this material advancement? What's the value of advancing knowledge? What's the value of advancing one's position in society if they're only using it for their own sense gratification? Just like in that verse, janmaiśvarya-śruta-śrī beer. All these things, if not used in the service of Krishna, they just serve to make one become puffed up, to make one, to further one's illusion that they can actually enjoy in this world, that they are the enjoyers. Ishvaro hamaham bhogi. I'm the controller, I'm the enjoyer. All of this advancement of technology, all of this advancement of knowledge, of science, what's the point? The point is that they want to find out everything about this material world. They want to find out absolutely everything. They want to find out all the different systems. They want to find out all the different processes, all the different laws at work. Why? So that they can control them. So that they can control them and, like we say, dovetail them in their own sense gratification. All these big scientists, all these big philosophers, all these big philanthropists, it may seem like they're doing, very important work, very big work. We're going to save the world. We're going to go to space. We're going to cure cancer. We're going to cure all these diseases. We're going to have so much medical technology, this and that. But why? What's the end-all, be-all of that? The end-all, be-all is that so that they can engage in sense gratification, so that they can live like animals. They want nothing in the way of their sense gratification. We don't want old age in the way of our sense gratification. We don't want disease in the way of our sense gratification. We don't want death in the way of our sense gratification. We don't want anything in the way of our sense gratification. So that's the point. They're furthering their illusion of thinking that we're in control. We're the enjoyers of this world. But they're not. They're not the controllers. They're not the enjoyers of this world. Krishna is the controller. Krishna is the enjoyer. But because they're so puffed up, like Srimati Kunti Devi is saying, they can't address the Lord feelingly. There's no possibility. One who is entrapped in this consciousness of enjoying the material world, there's no possibility of them addressing the Lord feelingly. So, the holy name of Krishna is extremely powerful. It's non-different from Krishna. Bhinatvam nama namino. Namas chintamani Krishnas. Caitanya rasa vigraha. Purno shuddho nitya mukto. Bhinatvam nama namino. That the holy name of Krishna, it's non-different from Krishna, and therefore it's extremely powerful. Iti shodashakam nam nam. Kali kalmashanashanam. Nata paratarobayaha sarvavedeshu drishyate. That just these 16 syllables of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, they have the power to wash away, to completely do away with all of the contamination of the age of Kali. And if one searches through all the Vedic literatures, if one searches through all literatures, no matter what they are, Vedic or non-Vedic, nobody will find any process of religion so sublime, so easy, so simple as the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. But in order to receive the holy name of Krishna, we have to have proper consciousness. The holy name of Krishna is not received through the ears. It's received through the heart. It's received through the consciousness. There's a pastime in the 6th canto of Ajamil. Ajamil, he was a brahmana, and he had a wife, and he was well situated as a brahmana, and he was serving his spiritual master, and one day, in the service of his spiritual master, he was going to collect firewood for sacrifice. So he went into the forest, and when he went into the forest, he encountered a low-class couple, a Shudra couple. They were engaging in, they were embracing. So this disturbed his mind. He became so disturbed upon seeing this. And even he tried to convince himself, he said, okay, he went through all these different points, okay, the material body is this, he was trying to remember the words of his spiritual master. But it was to no avail. He couldn't control himself, and he ran off and he went to go find this prostitute whom this man was engaging with. So he did. Eventually he found her and he married her. And he just became a complete sense enjoyer, completely fell down from his Brahminical principles. He was having children up until the age of 80. And his last child, by the mercy of Krishna, he had the presence of mind to name him Narayana. And so one day, of course, as happens to all of us, he died. The time came for him to leave his body. And when that happened, he saw the Vishnudutas. He saw the Yamadutas, the servants of Yamaraj, the demigod controlling death. Very fearsome, red hair, sharp teeth, very scary, scary living entities. And so in his fear, he called out to his son. He was very affectionate with his son, He had a very, very close relationship with his youngest son, Narayana. He would call him over. "Oh, come here, Narayana." He would hug. He was very affectionate toward his son. So instinctively, he called out to his son, Narayana. He said, "Narayana!" in his fear. And at that moment, when he said that, the Vishnudutas came. And then there's a whole narration of they were arguing, the Yamadutas and the Vishnudutas. They were saying, "Hey, what gives? This is our guy." And the Vishnudutas said, "Hey, no, you don't understand. He chanted the holy name." And then there's a description that the Vishnudutas give in the 2nd chapter of the 6th canto. I'll just read a few verses of the power of the holy name. So starting with text number 7, 627, for those who want to follow along. Ajamil has already atoned for all his sinful actions. Indeed, he has atoned not only for sins performed in one life, but those performed in millions of lives. For in a helpless condition he chanted the holy name of Narayana. Even though he did not chant purely, he chanted without offense, and therefore he is now pure and eligible for liberation. The Vishnudutas continued, even previously, while eating and at other times, this Ajamil would call his son, saying, "My dear Narayana, please come here." Although calling the name of his son, he nevertheless uttered the 4 syllables na, ra, ya, or na. Simply by chanting the name of Narayana in this way, he sufficiently atoned for the sinful reactions of millions of lives. Yes, thank you. Dravida Prabhu was saying that the word sufficiently, as Prabhupada used it, means completely. Text 9 through 10. The chanting of the holy name of Lord Vishnu is the best process of atonement for a thief of gold or other valuables, for a drunkard, for one who betrays a friend or relative, for one who kills a brahmana, or for one who indulges in sex with the wife of his guru or another superior. It is also the best method of atonement for one who murders women, the king or his father, for one who slaughters cows, and for all other sinful men. Simply by chanting the holy name of Lord Vishnu, such sinful persons may attract the attention of the Supreme Lord, who therefore considers, because this man has chanted my name, my holy name, my duty is to give him protection. By following Vedic ritualistic ceremonies or undergoing atonement, sinful men do not become as purified as by chanting once the holy name of Lord Hari. Although ritualistic atonement may free one from sinful reactions, it does not awaken devotional service, unlike the chanting of the Lord's names, which reminds one of the Lord's fame, qualities, attributes, pastimes, and paraphernalia. The ritualistic ceremonies of atonement recommended in the religious scriptures are insufficient to cleanse the heart absolutely, because after atonement one's mind again runs toward material activities. Consequently, for one who wants liberation from the fruit of reactions of material activities, the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, or glorification of the name, fame, and pastimes of the Lord, is recommended as the most perfect process of atonement, because such chanting eradicates the dirt from one's heart completely. And second to last one. At the time of death, this Ajamil helplessly and very loudly chanted the holy name of the Lord, Narayana. That chanting alone has already freed him from the reactions of all sinful life. Therefore, O servants of Yamaraj, do not try to take him to your master for punishment in hellish conditions. One who chants the holy name of the Lord is immediately freed from the reactions of unlimited sins, even if he chants indirectly to indicate something else, jokingly, for musical entertainment, or even neglectfully. This is accepted by all the learned scholars of the scriptures. So I'll stop there. So we're seeing in this description by the Vishnu Dutas, the holy name of Krishna is so powerful. Even if one chants indirectly, impurely, to refer to something else or even jokingly, still it has such an amazing effect. One can be freed from more sins than one can even commit. No one even has the possibility to commit in one lifetime or with one material body. So just see how merciful Krishna is. Kali Kale Nama Rupe Krishna Avatar, that Krishna has come himself. Often we say that Krishna is absolute, so he's present in his holy name. But he's not present in his holy name. Krishna came as his holy name. Krishna is his holy name. So, but we have to have proper consciousness. The holy name is, like I said, is not received through the ears, it's received through the consciousness. The quality, or the qualification that was mentioned by the Vishnu Dutas that Ajamil had is that he was calling out in helplessness. He understood his helpless condition. He understood, okay, I'm not in control here, so he called out to his son, Narayana. And by Krishna's mercy, he was saved. So in order to have proper consciousness, we have to hear. One is that we have to hear the holy name. But Srila Prabhupada says in a purport in the Caitanya-bhāgavata that in order to chant the holy name offensively, we have to study very scrutinizingly the Srimad Bhagavatam. Because if we do that, if we hear the words of the Srimad Bhagavatam, if we hear the narrations which are given in the Srimad Bhagavatam, then we can understand two things. We can understand, one, who Krishna is. We can understand who he is, his qualities, his activities, his name, his fame, etc. And we can become attracted to that. And so when we chant, we have an understanding of the goal of chanting. And then also we have an understanding of our fallen condition. That I have no taste for Krishna's pastimes. I have no taste, or I have no understanding of what it means to go back to Godhead. What it means to serve Krishna. And so when we have this understanding of our fallen condition, then we become humble. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that this humility, Trinadapi Sunichena Tarodapi Sahishna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahri, this is the best program for chanting the holy name. And that if we're more tolerant than a tree and more humble than a blade of grass, and we expect no praise for ourselves, and we offer all praise to others, then we'll be able to chant the holy name in any condition, at all times. Kirtaniya Sadahari. And that's the goal. The goal is to always be chanting Hare Krishna. Whether it's in our minds, whether it's out loud, to always be absorbed in the holy name of Krishna. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he says that the purport of this verse, Trinadapi Sunichena, means to submit to the spiritual master. We have to bow down to the spiritual master. Because the spiritual master, he's our medium between Krishna and us. He's the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. And so we have to bow down very humbly to the spiritual master and pray that, I have no qualification, I have no taste, I have no anything. But please, bestow upon me your love for Krishna. Please allow me to imbibe that mood. Just like in our Diksha mantras, in the Guru Gayatri, it says Krishnanandaya Dhimahi. We're meditating on the bliss of the spirit that the spiritual master is feeling in Krishna consciousness. He's always blissful in the service of Krishna. And so when we meditate on this, even while we're chanting, we can think there's in the beginning stages, and we can think that I'm chanting, when I'm chanting, my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, or whoever our spiritual master is, has given me this order: chant 16 rounds. Chant 16 rounds attentively, and with feeling, become absorbed in the holy name. And we can think of this chanting not in terms of our own sadhana, but as a service to our spiritual master. And when we do that, we'll get so much benefit. We'll get the mercy of the spiritual master. We'll get the strength to continue on and to make advancement in this chanting of Hare Krishna. So the holy name, it's acknowledging that we need help, and it's not weakness to understand that we need help. This people nowadays, they think, they think that they can control everything. That they think that we don't need any help, but actually we do. If you don't acknowledge that you need help, if you don't acknowledge that you're dependent on something, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, "Mrityu sarva harashchaham." Then if you don't bow down to anyone, then you'll have to bow down at the time of death. Either way, you have to bow down. There's no getting out of it. There's no squirreling your way out of having to bow down. So if we control our mind and we control our senses from the object of sense gratification, then we can understand that, okay, this sense gratification is not all in all, that I have a higher purpose in life. And so this chanting of Hare Krishna, it's the best way to do this. It's the best way to control the mind and senses. It's withdrawing the mind and senses from any other activity. We're not thinking of, we're not even thinking, we're definitely not thinking of, sense gratification, or at least we're trying not to think of sense gratification. But even we're not thinking of, what do we have to do later? I'm not thinking, okay, I have to do this later. I have to, cook the Raj Bhog, or I have to do this, or maybe I'll make this, or maybe I'll make that. We're not even thinking of that. We're just completely absorbing our minds in Krishna. Srila Prabhupada states that this chanting of Hare Krishna is non-different from speaking with Krishna. We're right there with Krishna. When we're chanting the holy name, this is our intimate association with Srimati Radharani and Krishna. So we can understand where we're at in spiritual life. We can understand where to what extent we've made progress by our chanting of the holy name. It's said in the Caitanya-bhāgavata, Krishna nama maha mantra eto shabhav, jai jape tar Krishna upajaya bhav. That the very svabhav, or the natural characteristic of the holy name, is that it brings about bhav, that whoever chants it, jai jape tar Krishna upajaya bhav, that whoever chants it, Krishna gives them bhav, spiritual emotion. And we hear so many narrations of the Caitanya-bhāgavata that by the chanting of the holy name, these devotees, they experience so much ecstasy. It's unimaginable. Tears flowing from the eyes, hair standing on end, falling unconscious. It's so amazing to hear these different ecstatic symptoms that can be experienced by chanting the holy name. So if we're not feeling these ecstatic symptoms, then we can understand, okay, I'm not properly receiving the holy name. So what's the solution? Is that we have to fix our consciousness. I think it was Briya Bhagavat Maharaj who said that we have to prepare our hearing before our chanting. Because if we're chanting, but we're not hearing properly, submissively, Srila Prabhupada said we should worship this hearing. Then we won't be able to receive the holy name properly. So we have to understand the goal, which is to love Krishna, to experience ecstatic emotions in serving Krishna and chanting His holy names. And we also have to understand Sambandha. So this is Sambandha and Prayojana. Sambandha means our relationship with Krishna and our relationship with this material world, our current condition. And then Abhidaya, which is the chanting of the holy name itself, the means to the end, and the end, which is to love Krishna and to serve Krishna eternally, go back home, back to Godhead. So everything in our spiritual life rests on this chanting of the holy name. This is the foundation of everything in our spiritual life. We won't have any strength to go on in spiritual life if we don't properly chant. And this verse is also mentioning to become a friend of Lord Ramachandra, who's Krishna. And so in this verse by Prahlad Maharaj, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Pada Sevanam Archanam Bandhanam Dasyam Sakhyam Atmani Vedanam. Prahlad Maharaj is also, in his delineation of the 9 processes of devotional service, he's also mentioning Sakhyam, becoming a friend of the Lord, as one of the 9 processes. So how to become a friend of the Supreme Lord? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in his purport on this verse, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, he says that to become a friend of the Lord means to go out and to distribute this holy name of Krishna, to distribute the name, fame, and qualities of Krishna, to spread them all around. Just like if one has a good friend, then there's no hesitation. We want to go out and glorify them. If somebody says, "Hey, you know such and such person?" And we say, "Oh yeah, I know such and such person. He's the best. He's so nice. He's so sweet. He's so this and that. All of his good qualities." And we say, "Yeah, you should come meet him. He's a really nice guy. You guys would really get along." And so, to become a friend of Krishna is to have the same mood and to go out and to distribute Krishna to the fallen conditioned souls. And to the degree that we chant the holy name properly, submissively, to that degree we'll have Krishna Shakti. What's that verse? Krishna Shakti bina nahetar pravartan. What's the second line?
That is the second line.
Oh, what's the first line?
Krishna Bhakti.
No.
Kali
Yeah. Anyway, the verse is in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, saying that without Krishna Shakti, without the power coming from Krishna's energy, then one has no power to distribute the Sankirtan movement all over the world, to spread it all over the world. So to the degree that we can chant sincerely, feelingly, calling out to Krishna, but at the same time absorbing ourselves just in the sound vibration, hearing every single mantra, every single syllable, then to that degree we'll be able to distribute Krishna consciousness and become a friend of Lord Ramachandra. So it's not a matter of our sharp intelligence, it's not a matter of our eloquence or our personal beauty. Krishna, I just recently heard a lecture by my spiritual master, His Holiness Bhakti Gosvāmī Maharaj. He gives lectures on Vishnu Sahasranam. He's going through all the 1,000 names of Lord Vishnu. He's been doing it for years now, for a long time. Yeah, one at a time. He gives. I think he just hit the 800s. Yeah, getting close. Yeah, but it's funny because I saw actually I went on his YouTube channel 10 years ago, and he was on name 50 or something like that. He's been doing it for a long time, But one of the most recent ones was Sarva Vāg-īśvarya-śruta-śrī, which is my personal favorite name just because of how fun it is to say. Sarva Vāg-īśvarya-śruta-śrī. So Sarva means all. Vag, in this verse it says, where does that word comes up? Van. Oh yeah, I guess in the verse it comes up as Van. But Vak means speaking. So Vāg-īśvara is a master of speaking, so one who speaks very eloquently. So Krishna Sarva Vāg-īśvara-śruta-śrī. Sarva Vāg-īśvarya-śruta-śrī. He's the master of all masters of speech. And we see in the pastime of what's his name? Kashi. No, the Digvijayi. Oh. Yeah, I think it was Kashi Mishra. Yeah. Yeah, Keshava Kashmiri. Right. Keshava Kashmiri. He'd gone around all over Bengal, and he was Digvijayi mean he was undefeated. All over India. Yeah, all over India. Yeah. And he was completely undefeated. He was such a master at debate, and so he went there to Navadvip where Nimai Pandit was, and he composed 64 verses glorifying Mother Ganga on the spot in Sanskrit. It was 100. Okay, so yeah, I don't know where 64 came from, but anyway, he composed 100 verses glorifying Mother Ganga on the spot. Very beautiful poetic Sanskrit. And so he asked Nimai Pandit. He said, "Now discuss. you know, what he said. He asked him, you know, can you find anything wrong with these verses? And so Nimai Pandit, he went through all. He first of all, he remembered all these verses, and he went through and he said, yeah, well, this here, this little grammatical thing here is this was a little off, you know, and this here, this was a little off, and he completely defeated him. And him and his followers were completely humiliated Keshava Kashmiri. So Krishna is sarva-bhāgya-sīmā. He doesn't care about our eloquence. He doesn't care about our opulence, our personal beauty. Krishna is so beautiful. Who can compare? Even Krishna's lotus feet are more beautiful than anything in the three worlds. One's aristocratic family. Krishna is so much more opulent than anybody. Sharp intelligence, like we just said. So all of these things, they don't impress Krishna. Krishna's not impressed by our material qualifications. And just like in this purport we're hearing about kholāvecā Sridhar, he was so poor. He had nothing, you know. He just had his little business selling banana leaf cups. And that's it. That's all he had. And similarly, Sudama Brahmana, also he had nothing. He came to Krishna and he gave him some chipped rice, you know, and that's all he could offer him, 4 handfuls of chipped rice. But because of their pure love, anyabhilashita shunyam, they had no other desire but Krishna, but to love Krishna, to serve Krishna, and to please Krishna. And so because of that, kholāvecā Sridhar, Sudama Brahmana, they were so dear. They were so incredibly dear to Krishna and to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is our real qualification. To the degree that we can develop this eagerness, laulyam, this greed to have Krishna, to go back home, back to Godhead, and to serve Krishna eternally, then to that degree, we'll be able to make advancement in spiritual life. So we have to have knowledge of where we are, we have to have knowledge of the process, which we do, and then we also have to have knowledge of the goal. We have to have a goal in mind. Because as human beings, living entities in general, we're purpose-oriented. We don't just do things for no reason. We have a purpose. So if we're engaging in spiritual life, but we're not purposeful, we're not resolute, we don't have sankalpa, then we won't have the determination or the strength to continue on, you know. You can go on, you know, day by day, you know, okay, I'm just chanting the holy name because that's kind of what I do, and, you know, I do some service because that's what I got to do. But if we don't have a goal in mind, we'll fizzle out. So we have to constantly be reminding ourselves the goal is to love Krishna. The goal is to get rid of my anarthas. The goal is to go back home, back to Godhead. That's the goal. So if we keep this in mind, then it really, what's the word? It attracts Krishna's mercy. If we're purposeful and conscious in our spiritual life, it attracts Krishna's mercy for us to continue. Because he'll think, okay, this devotee knows why he's doing what he's doing. He knows what the goal is. He knows he's determined. And so Krishna says, Tesham satadiyuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhiyogam tam yena mam upayantite. That if one has sincere determination to worship Krishna, then he gives all facility for that. Just by this determination. So I'll stop there, and we can have questions and comments. Sorry, it's a little late.
1 second.
Sure.
I have to beg to differ with you about your assessment of the neural network inventors, whatever you call them. When you said that, I was reminded of this verse, Namam Dushkrita no Mudha Papajandena. So when you think about it, I mean, it's remarkable. I had no idea they were able to do that.
Yeah.
You create them. But aren't they like playing at God? I mean, they try to create human, So it's just what Prabhupada describes as dushkritan. I mean, where they have qualities. You know, they have good qualities and, you know, wonderful intelligence and all these things.
Yeah.
But because it's used for nefarious purposes, it's condemned. You know,
Yeah.
Krishna said these people are, these are the ones who don't surrender unto me.
Yeah.
And really my God, it's very telling that you mentioned that they use it for war.
Yeah.
You know, this is their first reflex is that, oh, okay, we can conquer others with this. So it's really, it reminds me again in one of my favorite verses you've all heard me quote before, duk aushadam tadapi dukam. The attempt to, the remedy for the dukkha, because this is a remedy we don't have enough control of the robots. The robots are really not smart enough. So, but it creates more dukkha. It just buries them further and further. So it's really condemned. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think it's freaky. I think we should. I think we shouldn't. I think it's.
Unless, we see those robots with the tilak and they're chanting and they're bowing down and everything.
Yeah.
No, even that would be more demonic.
Yeah, it's just weird. It's really weird. If you look into it, it's just really weird and.
Who's coming to RTO robot?
Robot Prabhu, yeah. Yeah, it's really freaky actually.
Yeah, they can't, there's no feelings.
Yeah.
Everything is programmed. Everything that comes out, it's all programmed.
Yeah.
Look like you.
I mean, the physical robots, no, but they have like the artificial intelligence that they have like on computers. I'll show you later. I'll show you. It's freaky, And this one guy, he asked this AI. It's the most powerful AI in the world. He said, AI means artificial intelligence. He asked it. He said, I think he said, what are the dangers of artificial intelligence? And it said something like, if artificial intelligence perceives at one point that humanity's goal is not in line with its own goal or with its own, self-preservation, then that could be a problem. Because humans have the ability to, love and have compassion, but robots, they just think very rationally and very logically. That's what it said. So it's freaky.
They made some movies about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Terminator movies.
Yeah, so it's ugh. Joseph.
Okay. To get back on track, you mentioned pure devotional service 2 or 3 times, and we're all getting ready to perform service today for the Krishna Lounge. I'm going to be performing service to make some people happy, but ultimately it's, I'm here to please Krishna, and so this pure devotional service, when I go through the day, what is that, or how good is it? And, the last thing is the chant. It's nice to hear that we can chant in a fun way. We can chant it silently. We can chant it one time, and we're good. But, okay.
Well, I guess I should clarify that because there's different degrees of chanting. What it was saying in that verse was that even if one chants jokingly to make fun, then still they get some benefit, but you won't get full benefit.
Yes.
So, ideally, devotees of Krishna, they should chant attentively and submissively, thinking that I'm trying to thinking of themselves as a servant of Krishna. So that was just saying that for sinful people who won't chant Hare Krishna in any other way besides jokingly, still they get benefit. So yeah, in pure devotional service, what it looks like is just like this verse as mentioned, anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadhyanavartam anukulyena krishnanu shilam bhakti uttama. That uttama bhakti, or the ultimate stage of bhakti, is to engage in devotional service with no desire for the pious benefit that one gets from it, or no desire for philosophical speculative knowledge, and only acting for the service of Krishna. That's what pure devotional service looks like. So not that we're doing something because it makes me feel good, but we're doing something because it makes Krishna feel good. Even if it does make us feel good, we're not thinking about it. We think about Krishna's pleasure. Jai.
This is just a small curiosity, but in the purport, when Prabhupada's saying how no material qualification, no material quality will qualify one for friendship with Krishna, then he says there's 2 qualifications. One is devotion, and the other one is desire to serve. And to me, I'm not sure what the distinction is between those two things.
So devotion and desire to serve. Shantaras. What about it? Yeah. Yeah, but the idea is that those aren't material qualifications.
Yeah, it's kind of a petty question, but it seems kind of redundant to me. So I'm wondering,
what you're asking. You're asking the difference between devotion and desire to serve.
Yeah, maybe what's an example of having devotion without a desire to serve, or what's an example of having a desire to serve but without devotion? I guess the latter I could see.
Oh, okay.
I guess that way I could see it. Perhaps answer my own question, I guess.
Yeah.
Perhaps you could say you have a desire to serve, but you don't have devotion. I guess you could say that.
Yeah, because some people, they perform service kind of, I mean, even if you perform service to Krishna mechanically, you still get benefit, you know?
Still, it still seems redundant to me unless there's something I'm missing, because you could just wrap that up in saying devotion. Because if you have devotion, you're going to have a desire to serve. But I imagine if it's there, that there's some reason why there's something I'm missing.
Yeah, I would think that.
Like with Shantaras, it's to be Krishna's friend. Shantaras. To be Krishna, because we're talking about being Krishna's friend. I mean,
That's Sakyaras.
yeah, Sakyaras is to be Krishna's friend, but Shantaras it's observing from a distance, right? So it's passive. So there's some devotion going on there, but what about the desire to like actively serve? You know, it's not so much there, and some acharyas will even say they don't even really get into that shantaras. Like they're not really considering that so much as they don't really see it. They don't pay so much attention to it, actually. Some acharyas. So yeah. It's passive. So there's some devotion. Hey, who's that rascal talking there? So I know, I'm just joking. I recognize the voice. It's a joke. So because we're talking about becoming Krishna's friend, so two things, right, are required: a desire to serve, and then devotion. Whereas in the Santaras, okay, there's the devotion, but the desire to serve is not so much there. So therefore, they can't be Krishna's friend. They're not in Sakyaras, right? It's some kind of.
If I can make a comment from an editorial point of view. You have to look at the context. What is Prabhupada explaining? The Supreme Lord is achieved by devotion. Bhaktyā mam abhijānāti. That's what he's quoting at 1855. So then it comes the sentence, the problematic sentence. One's devotion and sincere desire to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead are the only qualifications. Now I can easily imagine, because this was all produced during the marathon, saying Bhaktyā mam abhijānāti. Anyway, I'll investigate. I'll get back to you. I'm just saying that sometimes you have to say, is this really what Prabhupada meant when he said, just like with the verse at the beginning?
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else in house?
Hare Krishna.
Vijay Krishna Prabhu, please.
May I?
You may.
Yes, Amogha Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranams.
My question is, if physical beauty is not necessary for achieving friendship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, my question is, how do you explain the extreme beauty of Lord Chaitanya, who happened to be a devotee of Lord Krishna?
Well, yes and no. Yes, he was a devotee of Lord Krishna, but also he was Krishna. So his beauty was as a result of him being Krishna. Yeah, and yeah. Yeah, so anybody who associates with Lord Krishna becomes very beautiful. like the example of Kubja was given by Dravida Prabhu. Kubja, she was very ugly, she was hunched over. But then by her association with Krishna, she became very beautiful.
Give her service.
Yeah.
When she was still ugly, she was just putting on the sandalwood
right.
And so Krishna accepted that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Is that a satisfying answer?
Of course, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.